It was a quiet morning in a small village nestled deep in the heart of Burkina Faso, where time moved with the rhythm of nature and stories passed down from elders still shape the minds of the young. In that village, long before anyone knew the name Captain Ibrahim Traoré, he was simply Ibrahim, the quiet boy with steady eyes and a presence that made grown men pause. He was 6 years old the day it happened. A drought had plagued the land for weeks, and the villagers gathered at the old shrine near the dry spring, hoping for a sign, a break in the cruel silence of the skies. The elders prepared a ceremonial bowl, an heirloom passed from generation to generation filled with water drawn from the last reserve hidden in the rocks. They said it was sacred, and that no child had ever touched it before. But Ibrahim, unnoticed, stepped forward. He wasn't mischievous, and he wasn't trying to defy the elders. He just felt drawn. His mother called out to stop him, but before her voice could reach him, he had already dipped his fingers into the bowl. And then it happened. A soundless heat shimmered in the air. The villagers watched, stunned, as thin wisps of steam began to rise from the water, not violently, not dangerously, but softly, as if the water recognized the boy, as if it was bowing. No one moved. Even the birds fell silent. The elder who guarded the bowl stepped back, his cane trembling in his hand. "It has never done that," he whispered. "Not even when my grandfather was a child." Ibrahim looked up, his small fingers still in the water. He wasn't frightened. He wasn't confused. He simply asked, "Is it supposed to feel warm like this?" From that day, the story began to spread not just of what happened, but of what it meant. Some said the boy had a gift. Others said the ancestors had marked him. But none dared test it again. The bowl was sealed and never used again. And Ibrahim? He returned to his chores, helping his mother, feeding the goats, and asking questions about the stars. Years passed, and the memory faded until that same boy grew into a man who would one day command armies, face down imperial influence, and redefine what leadership looked like on African soil. And yet, among the elders who still remembered, one would always say, "We should have known then." A child who could calm sacred water would one day rise to calm a stormed nation. To this day, no scientific explanation has ever been given for what happened to that bowl of water. But in the hills near that village, children are told a story that when a soul touches the earth with purpose, even the elements take notice. And perhaps they did. Years later, long after the story of the boy and the steaming water had faded into whispered legend, the old man who once guarded the sacred bowl found himself staring at a television screen in his modest hut. The broadcast was shaky, picked up by a portable solar-powered radio-TV hybrid donated by a passing NGO. But there was no mistaking the figure on the screen, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, now the leader of Burkina Faso, standing tall in his olive uniform, eyes just as steady as the day he touched the bowl. The old man leaned closer, squinting. "So, it was true," he murmured. "The ancestors knew." What no one else knew, what had remained unspoken even in his final years, was that the bowl, the one Ibrahim had touched, had been carefully sealed in linen and stored in the shrine after that day. The elders had declared it too sacred, too changed, to ever be used again. But the old man had kept the linen hidden in his home, unable to part with the memory. And now, watching the once small boy command a nation, he knew the time had come. He sent a letter, handwritten and slow, to the presidential office in Ouagadougou. It bore no stamp of urgency, no seal of politics. It simply read, "To the boy who once calmed the water, the bowl still remembers, and so do I. Come back to where it all began." No one expected a reply, certainly not within days. But Ibrahim came, without the press, without a motorcade, only a small, unmarked convoy and his closest aide. He wore no medals, no signs of rank, just a white linen shirt, and eyes that still remembered a different kind of silence. The old man was waiting beneath the baobab tree. And when the president approached, they said nothing at first. The elder slowly walked into his home and brought out the wrapped bowl, still sealed, still waiting. "I thought you should see it once more," he said, "before I leave this world." Ibrahim took the bowl, unwrapped it with reverence. Inside, the faintest shimmer still danced on the surface as if the memory of that heat had never left. He didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, he said, "I've touched weapons, walked among nations, stood beneath flags, but this was the first time something ever listened to me, and I never understood why." The old man smiled, eyes tired but full. "Because you didn't come to command. You came with wonder." Ibrahim bowed his head, not as a president, but as a boy returning to the beginning. They buried the bowl that day in a quiet spot beneath the tree, not in fear, but as a gift to the earth it had once responded to. And as Ibrahim Traoré returned to the capital that evening, the stars overhead shimmered faintly in the same pattern that once danced in sacred water. The people who watched him didn't know why their hearts felt lighter. But in some quiet corner of the country, the ancestors stirred and the earth exhaled, because the boy had remembered, and the path remained unbroken. Years later, long after President Ibrahim Traoré had passed into the realm of ancestors, the story of the steaming water was nearly forgotten, known only to a handful of elders, retold in hushed tones around fires. Burkina Faso had changed. It was stronger, freer, and prouder. But the land never forgot. Neither did the tree. One dry season, decades after Traoré's funeral had drawn millions into the streets, a team of international archaeologists working near the outskirts of the Sahel came across an unusual formation beneath the roots of an ancient baobab. What began as a geological scan soon turned into a full excavation. At barely 2 meters deep, wrapped in worn linen and protected by layers of clay, they unearthed a bowl, ordinary by shape, unremarkable in material. Yet when one of the team members brushed away the final bit of soil and lifted it into the sun, the air around them shimmered faintly, and the cameras capturing the moment all glitched at once. News of the artifact spread fast. Historians argued, scientists puzzled over the strange electromagnetic fields surrounding the object, and cultural leaders demanded it be returned to the land immediately. But among the people of Burkina Faso, no one was confused. They knew what had been found. They called it le bol du feu silencieux, the bowl of silent fire. And in the center of Ouagadougou, where a statue of Ibrahim Traoré now stands tall beneath the open sky, the elders gathered once more. They didn't weep, they didn't pray, they simply whispered a truth their children would one day carry. He was chosen, and the earth never forgets its chosen ones. From that day forward, the bowl was never displayed in a museum. It was buried once more, this time beneath the foundations of a new academy bearing Traoré's name. And above it, carved in stone, "Here lies the silence that turned to steam, and the man who made the world listen."